On this episode of Game Shack, it's all the week's news in retro gaming, and is there a fatal design flaw in Arcade1up's Legacy cabinets? Coming up next. Hey everybody, it's JDV here for EvilGeniusEntertainment.com. Thank you for stopping by the Game Shack. It really does mean a lot to us here at EGE. All right, it's been a relatively slow week in the realm of retro gaming here in this second week of April 2021, but of course there is still some news, and including from iiArcade, which has released yet 4 more games to their online server, this time from ColecoVision. So it's a couple of Sydney Hunter games and a couple of racing games, including Light Grid Racing and Spunky Space Car. I'm always happy when any of these companies add racing games to their units because there are a dearth of them. We should have a little bit more of them in this market space, and I hope that iiArcade, hopefully this is an indication that they might be thinking about adding a steering wheel or some other kind of controller to their cab. It remains to be seen, but I hope they do. But anyway, good for you, iiArcade. Keep that content coming. In other retro gaming news, AtGames 1 through 3 appear to be completely fulfilled at this point, and Wave 4 is now shipping out. And I know this for a fact because I have Wave 4 sitting right over there. And my initial impressions about this machine are all good. It is a pretty amazing bang for buck. Some negatives, and I'll get into that in my full review, which should be out sometime either next week or early week after that. But so it looks like Wave 4 is going to be out real soon, and everybody in Wave 4, it looks like, is going to be fulfilled within the next 2 to 3 weeks, I would guess. It does look like there's some good news for everybody wanting to check out this game, and you do want to check it out. It is super awesome. Now, the only question I really have then is, when is Wave 5 going to be announced? How soon? When? And is it going to be the exact same game? Probably. And will there be any new titles out there for this? I'd be very surprised if they weren't trying to get some other games for it, but I will tell you the Sicaria tables are pretty, I did not think that they would be as good as they are, and I like old school pinball, but the emulations are real good. Yeah, you'll see it in the review. But it's not all good news in the realm of virtual pinball, and that's because Toyshock again has announced a delay in the delivery of their PCBs for Waves 1 through 2. If you ordered them, they're now saying sometime in May, and they're blaming this problem on shipping delays from China. Now, there's no word from them, at least not as I record this, as to if this is going to now further delay Waves 4 of their pinball game, which we're supposed to hit out to, I guess, Walmart. They haven't said what distributors, even though they said that the distributors that they are in contact with okayed new skins, like from Black Hole. But this newest announcement of a delay cannot be very good news on any of this front, and some of it is because their excuse doesn't quite hold water. This is an order that should have been put in literally months ago, and supposedly is flown directly via airmail from China to whoever ordered the PCB. So it can't be because it's stuck in port, right? So I'm not sure what's going over there on Toyshock. I'm not sure if they don't have priority in whatever factories this is made, or if they just waited too long to get their order in. I don't know what it is, but I do know that with products like the AtGames Legend Pinball, and even the Arcade1up games, the need for the Toyshock, you know, if you can't make these things come out in large number at $400, I'm not sure why we should take a look at them unless you're a modder, but then again, you got to be able to have it to mod it. So not great news for fans of Toyshock. I hope that these things sort out, because I do think there's a lot there to like, but time will tell. And I would say the other kind of news, and this is, I guess, the headliner or the topic for this episode, is the fact now that there is an apparent design flaw in the Arcade1up Legacy cabinets. Now I happen to have one right here. I have the Pac-Man Legacy cab, which I should have the review out on Monday or Tuesday of next week, so check that out. Again, my initial impressions about this cab have been very good. When I was putting the cab together, I'd noticed there's a couple of design changes from the 40th edition cab, or 3rd gen of cabs, but primarily it's the addition of 2 J blocks that you stick on either side of the cabinet, one on each side, and that is where the control deck sits. When you screw in the control deck, it sits on these 2 things. Now, when I was constructing the unit, I didn't think anything of it. I just thought, well, this is additional bracing, good for them. But then it turns out by the time I finished the cab, oh no, it's not additional bracing. It is the only bracing that you're going to get in an Arcade1up Legacy cabinet. Of course, we know now that we have the raised edges on both of those fighting cabinets. And because of that, it turns out that the control deck is not sitting on the side anymore, of course, but it's sitting on the inside, and it's sitting on these J blocks, which are only held in by 3 screws on each side, and only by maybe about that much of a screw, because, well, there's only 1/2 inch MDF material, so there's not a lot for them to go into. For me, playing this Pac-Man game for a couple of hours already, I would say it's probably not going to be an issue at all for Pac-Man owners or Tempest Legacy owners. I just don't think that there's going to be that much physical interplay between the player and the game to where you're going to really see yourself damaging it. Those games just aren't that physical. It's either tapping a button for Galaga or you're moving a joystick. In the case of Tempest and those games, you're using a spinner. It's even less physically demanding, and those are 1-player cabinets. So you're only ever having one adult's wrist and hands on the game at one time. Well, that is completely different than Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter, right? And those you're going to have 2 grown adults potentially playing on there. And of course, those are much more vigorous games than something like Pac-Man. You have a vigorous movement of the joystick, constant tapping of the buttons, shoving to try to get better space on the very small control deck. One of the other negatives is in terms of how durable is this design going to be, but you're actually making an already too small 2-player control deck even smaller. You're losing some on the sides, and you might be losing some in this direction too. And so now you've made this cabinet smaller in terms of its control deck. You've made it shorter in terms of its vertical height. You've put out the marquee in the case of Mortal Kombat 2. So if you're 5'9" really, or 5'10" or taller, you will not be able to see the screen. You have made these raised edges, which makes it more uncomfortable to play the games, especially if you're playing for a long time. And those same raised edges now are going to start to excessively wear because they're being constantly touched by wrist and hands. And the control deck now does not set on the sides of the unit, which made it very, very strong. You could sit on it actually. Now you've put it on the inside of the cabinet, being supported by just 2 braces on either side with 3 screws each. That is choosing aesthetics over durability and gameplay. So my advice to Arcade1up is real simple. Get out in front of this, because this is an issue. It is absolutely an issue for serious gamers, for gamers thinking about adding cabs to their arcade, thinking about replacing their cab. So that wraps up the week's news and this episode. If you like this sort of content, please give me a thumbs up on the way out. It really does help. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you know when other videos are coming out. Love each other. And until next time, I'll see you guys in the Game Shack. Mwah! Houston, we may have a problem. Be sure to visit evilgeniusentertainment.com for exclusive content, swag, casting call news, and much, much more.